Why are the UK doctors continuously striking? Whether you've heard it or not, the junior doctors in the UK have been striking on and off about every other month for over a year now. Lots of people are fed up with the junior doctors striking so much and are saying that the doctors should come to a settlement with the government already. And some are even saying that 35% increase is crazy at best and anti-national at worst. I mean, look at all the other departments of the government that are also not getting paid as much. Yet they are still working, aren't they? Well, that's all well and good, but the public needs to first understand why the strikes are even happening and how are they being held, because patient safety is at its forefront and still the doctors need to keep functioning, so there is a fine balance that has been made. So what's been happening? Let's see it a bit more detail. In England, the first round of junior doctor strikes were held from 13th March 2023 and they lasted for about 5 days. Hospitals went into a crisis mode and cancelled many appointments, and the waiting list that was already long post-COVID became massive. Repeat that times 10 since then, and now the waiting list has gone to exponential lengths, with people having to wait over a year for getting their appointment. And as of this video, the 11th round of strikes have been now announced. For the sake of transparency, I will let you know that I have taken every single one of the junior doctor strikes that have been held, in solidarity with my team. There was this one time, however, when the A&E doctors and the on-call doctors were not included in part of the strikes. So I did not strike then, because back at that time I was an A&E doctor. So apart from that, I have taken every single one of the strike days. And so I have had a pay cut for all these days. The total comes up to about 25 days of strikes that I have taken personally. But even without the money, these strikes have done more for my mental health than anything else. So what about other countries in the UK? As you are aware, the United Kingdom comprises 4 countries: England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So what's been happening in the other countries? We know in England, the doctors have been striking for a year now. However, in Scotland, the junior doctors accepted a deal with the government where in August 2023, the government agreed to increase the salary by 12.4% and also made a commitment towards salary restoration. So that takes care of the strikes in Scotland. No strikes have happened since August 2023. As for Wales, the junior doctors first went on strike from 15th to 18th of January 2024, then again in February, then again in March. And for Northern Ireland, the junior doctors first balloted on a strike action in January 2024, about 8 months after the England doctors had already started going on strike. So in Northern Ireland, doctors first balloted in January and finally went on strike in March 2024. So you can see pretty much everybody has been striking at some point or the other. Now there are multiple questions that I will address in this video one by one, so you feel free to skip around with the chapters mentioned below. So for England, witnessing its 11th round of junior doctor strikes, if you are still wondering why the doctors are striking, here is the explanation. The junior doctors say that since 2008-2009, the pay cut to their salary in real terms has been about 26%. And the British Medical Association says that to bring the salary today up to the same level as what a 2008 junior doctor was getting, the rise needs to be about 35.4%. So what are these two percentages and why are they so different? Let's take a moment to understand that. Because what's going on? So the first number, 26%, is the real terms pay cut in a junior doctor's salary when accounted for inflation and other economic factors. In other words, even though the nominal pay has been rising slowly every year, nominal pay being, the exact number that's printed on the payslip, even though that number has been increasing every year ever so slightly, it's not increasing at the same rate as the inflation is increasing. So what does that mean? Let's say if the inflation rose by 5% this year, then the salary increase was only 3% or 4%. So there's a lag, isn't it? Now combine that every single year for 15 years, because 2008-2009 is what's being compared against. And you will see that this 1 or 2% gap behind the inflation keeps on widening and widening. And so finally we end up at a 26% less income for a doctor today compared to what they were getting in 2008. Now the 35.3 or 35.4% that the BMA is stating is the increase needed to be brought about to today's salary to bring it up to the same level as the 2008-2009 salary of a junior doctor when adjusting for inflation and other economic factors. 35.3% or the 35.4% indicates the increase needed to today's salary to undo that pay cut. So what has the government done to address these strikes? You see, the pay compression has been bad across the country, across multiple departments. But as with all things government, it is extra bad in the public sector, particularly for highly paid professionals. Pretty much all public sectors are striking, and only some have managed to achieve or even come close to the demands of an increased salary. We know for the junior doctors in Scotland, after the government agreed to increase the salary by 12.4% and made a commitment to restore the pay cut, they agreed to end their strikes, and that is it. In England, the government offered somewhat of a similar deal in 2023 September, where they increased the salary of a fresh out of med school doctor by 10.25%, where that reduced to 8.1% for a junior doctor in the final year of training. However, this does not come even close to bridging the gap of 35.3% increase needed. The BMA is eager to come to a good enough number, even if not the final 35.3% increase, but the government has not cooperated. Hence, the strikes are ongoing. The government believed that it could ignore, delay, and offer excuses for not increasing the salary. And eventually, they hoped that the doctors would just get tired because every 6 months they need to vote again to be allowed to strike for the next 6 months. So the doctors would eventually get tired of striking so much and losing out on salary that the government wished that the doctors would at some point stop striking altogether, just give up, But that hasn't worked. And it has cost the government £3 billion to make up for the doctor strikes. Because during the time that the junior doctors are striking, the government needs to pay the consultants at a much higher rate, which is the consultant rate, for doing the same job as a junior doctor. So the consultants will need to step down into a junior doctor role at that time. So the government has managed to keep the hospitals running through that measure, and it has cost them £3 billion to do that. And the funny thing is, this £3 billion is double the amount that was needed by BMA to settle its whole claim. So if you only spent £1.5 billion, you would have solved pay restoration issues with the junior doctors and there would not have been any more strikes. But it does not seem to be going into the policymakers' brains to do that. I mean, at this point, you've got to ask, what is the government's real issue here? Once they increase the salary, they of course cannot step it down. But that's no excuse not to do it. And what is happening is doctors' attrition. If you don't reward doctors to do hard, highly skilled jobs, then they will simply stop doing them or move to a country that does pay them fairly for their work. Doctors study this hard and work this much so that they can live a life that's better than those who do not. If there are no prizes, then it's not worth competing. And hence you're ending up losing so many doctors and needing to recruit international medical graduates to come into the country to make up for it. And increasing the number of physician associates and medical associated practitioner posts as another way to make up for the shortfall of doctors. All of this just hurts patient safety. Now we know how a strike action affects the government, but how does it affect the public? It's really horrible, the state the public has been put in by the government. What's been happening is, the one time that the strikes were held for 5 days, the NHS had to cut down on 175,000 appointments, including chemotherapy treatments, which ultimately hurt patients because cancer, of course, needs treatment urgently and on time. You cannot be non-compliant with cancer treatment. Now, what these cancelled appointments led to was a rescheduling of these appointments as well as increased length of the waiting list. Now, how is the waiting list being caught up? The same thing that could have been done on a weekday by normal salaried doctors now needs to be done by doctors who are being paid overtime to come in on the weekend to tackle these waiting lists. This is again costing the NHS money to keep the waiting list short. Many trusts have even depleted their cash reserves and need to lay off consultants and reduce repairs to their hospitals. Now, it is not just the junior doctors who are striking, but there are even consultants striking. Not to mention, in England, during September, there was a joint strike with the consultants and the junior doctors, so there was a complete walkout of everyone. And now, finally, for the curious who are wondering how a strike is held, let's take you through it step by step. The British Medical Association is a union of junior doctors and consultants in the United Kingdom. They voice the opinions and wants of the doctors to the government, and then try to negotiate with the government to come to a fair settlement for its members. In this case, they spoke to the government about wanting an increase in salary because of this widening gap that we've already discussed. And the government did not agree. So now, as per the Trade Union Act of 2016, they decided to go on a strike where they sent all their members a letter saying vote yes or no for a strike. And so all the BMA members received the letter and an envelope to send the letter back to, and they ticked yes or no. The letter went back to the BMA where accounting was done, and it turned out that most of the doctors did show up for the balloting, and most of the doctors did vote a yes for strike. And that's how, as per the Trade Union Act, the BMA was allowed to organize strikes of the junior doctors for 6 months. They did multiple strikes during that 6 months. The government still didn't listen, and then they went on another 6 months of strike, which is when the government increased the salary by a few percentage, but not enough. And finally, because we have not yet come close to what we want or even obtained a favorable number, we decided to go on a third round of strike. So again, the ballot letter was sent out, and every single time the letters are coming back to the BMA for the next round of strikes, that the number of turnouts is increasing, and the number of people voting yes to go on a strike is also rising. And here we are, as of this video, the 11th round of strikes in England have been scheduled for the end of July 2024. My name is Abhinav Kumar, and thank you for joining in. Here are some other videos to check out.